Hello, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. A controversial topic for us to discuss today, because whenever you talk about coin design or anything of a subjective nature as such, there always tends to be some controversy. But I think in the end you'll find that this video will probably not be as controversial as one may think. In fact, probably most of the community here will agree. And what you're looking at here is the Connecticut State Quarter. And what goes back to whenever the 50 State Quarters program was initiated, which, by the way, was inspired by the Royal Canadian Mint's 12 coin series honoring the 12 provinces of Canada back in 1992. So as was born the 50 State Quarters program, the designs of which were chosen by state competitions. And there were some really good designs for this program, and I think this is probably considered one of the best, the Connecticut State Quarter from 1999. And arguably that same year, this is probably considered maybe one of the worst. Not so much the subject matter, but the translation of such a detailed painting to the small canvas that is the metal planchet of the quarter rendered this design pretty much but a recognizable blob on the quarter itself. And then you have the very first state quarter, which was a Delaware. This is probably one of the better designs chosen because of its simplicity and its rendering there and composition there on the piece. But again, this is just an example of some. There were some really bad designs, and there's some really good designs for the state quarters, and it can be somewhat understandable considering that it was stemmed from competitions from the general public and the like for these pieces. And then fast forward to later, when there was a formation of the Commission of Fine Arts to review designs after the State Quarter program. And of course, they've been around obviously since 1910 here. And then the CCAC, which is a Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee. And both of these organizations meet and choose designs and make recommendations to the Secretary of the Treasury, who is the ultimate arbiter of what gets put on our coins. And he can either accept or reject the recommendations for both of these organizations, and has done so. And then that's what ends up on our coinage. So the Secretary of the Treasury, I would hope, would be of the mind of or an individual that has a keen sense of design, and but that doesn't necessarily have to. So really the responsibility lies within these two organizations, and I would hope that they would make a couple of different considerations as such. But as we see here, the America the Beautiful designs since 2010, we're going to revisit this page and kind of look at this a little more closely. But the reason for this video, as you can see in the title, is to talk about the quarter that could have been. And as you note, as I noted in a previous video, I showed an example of a slabbed version of what the nickel could have looked like. I thought was a far superior design than what was chosen for the nickel that we see now. But in this case, it's a coin to be released next year, the Cumberland Island Quarter from Georgia. And what has been chosen is the egret, the snowy egret here. And we're going to hear about this here in this article. It talks about how on June 16th, the Commission of Fine Arts met to discuss the 2018 America the Beautiful design candidates and make their recommendation. And their design was the choice for Cumberland Island was design number 6, a snowy egret perched on a branch with its wings spread in preparation for flight. And the commission members recommended alternative number 6, a second choice to the Mint's liaison. They recommended the snowy egret with the outstretched wings to provide a dynamic composition, and the scene conveys the character of the seashore there. And on June 22nd or June 27th, it was the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee's turn to meet and discuss the candidates. The CCAC members generally panned the snowy egret design for looking stiff and unnatural. The design was received with the most enthusiasm was number 3, a diving sea turtle. And here's some of the comments from the meeting transcript. Some of these names you may recognize. Dennis Tucker says, the turtle would be very popular outside the hobby community and would have some fans in the mainstream audience. And Eric Jansen says, I love the layout, I love the bubbles, I love the frolicking kind of a surf thing. The turtle is really fun. And here's Heidi Wasweet, who is a member. We know her from designing the Freedom Girl and many other great designs. She's one of the better designers and sculptresses of the day for metallic design. She says this is fantastic. It's a right amount of bold, the right amount of detail, the right amount of contrast. I'd like to see the bubbles polished. It's going to be really fun. The kids are going to love it. And Herman Viola says, I do love the turtle. Haven't seen anything like that before. Collectors, kids, they'd buy it for their kids and grandkids. It's a neat coin. Excellent, excellent comment there. And that comment alone should be the reason why this design should have been chosen. Steve Roach, who is the editor for the Coin World magazine, I think a ton of collectors really love turtles. I think young people who potentially be getting these coins as gift also love turtles. It's fun. It's going to look great as a proof. It's going to look good large, because you have to think about this design as it's also going to be implemented on the quarter size, but also the 5-ounce version. So it's going to look good large, it's going to look great small, and those are things you have to consider, as was mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, referenced earlier with the New Jersey State Quarter. It's going to be the kind of coin that when someone sees it in pocket change, they're going to stop and look at it. He's exactly right. And it's all about getting young collectors involved in coin collecting, and that's something you have to be considered. So it got 30 out of 33 votes from the CCAC members, overwhelming support. And the article kind of continues along here, and they reach out, but look at that design. It's just spectacular, and there's a lot of detail. It's simplistic, it's to the point, great composition. It's got everything that I think that would really invigorate the series and probably get people to collect the America the Beautiful series. For sure, it's a great design, and even if you don't think it's a great design, at least it's something different. And we're going to follow up that in a moment. But this is and then when asked about it from Treasury officials, the CCAC member gave a kind of a panned response and said, ultimately the Secretary has 2 letters, one from the CFA and one from the CCAC, and occasionally the recommendations from each of the committee was different. It was a responsibility of the Office of the Secretary of the Treasury, which ultimately decided the final design. So there have been times when both organizations give different designs as recommendations. And in this case, obviously, the Treasury chose the CFA design, which is second. Of course, the article reader speculates that possibly it was a safe design, and or maybe it could have been because of the familiar posture of the snowy egret, wings spread, a subtle reminder of the eagle's typical pose on American coinage. But perhaps the sea turtle, which is so often the center of environmental conflicts, seemed a little too chancy politically. Or maybe somebody at the Treasury just doesn't like turtles. So there's a plethora of different reasons, but one can only speculate at this point. But it's super sad that this design wasn't chosen, because it doesn't have to be political at all. I think it's a beautiful rendering, and I think it would translate well on coinage, as we've seen with the Fiji Taku. Now, going back to the America the Beautiful designs, let's look at them from the very beginning to the end of each design. And you're going to see a running theme of different situations and landscapes which basically meld into each other, which are the same tried. It's a lot of these coins have come out yes, they're beautiful the first time it was done. The second time it was done, it gets old after a while. I'm a fan of symmetry, so I like the symmetrical designs. Like the Hot Springs coin is a great, spectacular design of a memorable landmark for that particular one here. The Yellowstone design is great, although, however, the Buffalo, it worried me that it was being used again. Seems like it's overused in some of the coinage. I know it's kind of a harkens back to the Buffalo nickel, but still, um, you know, it's and there's the geyser. I think they could have done a better job with the geyser itself. But nonetheless, there it is. Probably hard to do. Yosemite, I know that's a familiar scene. I guess that's okay. The Grand Canyon, that's a kind of an odd rendering of the Grand Canyon. It doesn't really show its majesty, in my opinion. Gettysburg, that's fine, appropriate, I think. Glacier, yes, it's kind of cool, different with the mountain goat there. That's different. And then you have the another elk in Olympic. These are too similar, and it's for the same year too. It's like there's pretty much all but indistinguishable unless you really know the landmarks of the area. The Vicksburg, appropriate considering it's a honoring the Civil War and the battleship there. Very nice. Chickasaw, a bridge with a landscape scene. Okay. And then here we have our first bird, El Yunque, and that's unique. At least it's got a turtle and a parrot there, and from Puerto Rico. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a good design. Chocolate culture, that's a pretty good design as well. And going on down through here, Acadia, that's beautiful. Great design. I love this design. I've got both these pieces here. I don't know what they were thinking for Hawaii volcanoes. That is probably the worst design. It looks like a splattering of mass. It looks like a Jackson Pollock piece. It's horrible, absolutely horrible design for the Hawaii volcanoes. It was this coin that made me decide, well, I'm not going to collect these. Denali, another a sheep, goat, ram with a background scene. It's too similar to the other ones above, but by itself, it's a great design. Just not sure. White Mountain, it's okay. A little different with the trees and the mountain in the background there. That's probably all they could do. Perry's Victory, something different at least. Kind of like that one. Great Basin, not a fan of. The tree, the texture of the trees and everything's not all that. But so anyways, you can critique each of these designs. Mount Rushmore is unique because it shows a unique view. But by and large, there's too many similarities in some of these pieces here. And but here's where it starts to get bad here, especially with these swamp birds. You know, the you have the birds here on the swamp for the Everglades, and that was fine for this one. But then you have another bird here for Kisachi, the turkey. You know, it's a little bit different. But then Bombay Hook is basically the same thing from the previous year as the Everglades. Very similar. Shawnee is very similar. You know, it's just another rock formation that we saw with the arches. And then moving along here, you see more similarities. The effigy mounds, I hear somebody say that the actual effigy mounds look nothing like this. It looks like a child's drawing. Very bad design in my view. But these birds and the way some of these, they should have looked. And so now in 2018, here's pictured rocks, another rock formation with a tree on it. I don't know. Maybe that's the focus of it there. So I guess, you know, I don't know. But some of these are just another duck. And then here, a bird in a swamp. You know, it's been done 2 other times. It's just horrible. Anyways, enough about that. But I really wish they would have chosen that turtle. That turtle would have been awesome. Post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to y'all for watching and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.